Welcome to a Song of Ice and Fire Symposium. My name is Nav, and my pronouns are they, them.
And my name's Harmit, and my pronouns are Hershey, like the chocolate.
And this is A Feast for Crows, Chapter 43, Cersei. In this chapter, Cersei is finally pushed into the grave that she has been digging for herself.
Dun, dun, dun.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Before we move on, I just want to quote Annalise from our Discord and one of our listeners who said, she really gaslighted, gate-kept, and girl-bossed her way into the prison cells at the Sept, which I appreciated. That's from like 2 years ago, but I liked it so much that I noted it down.
Oh, wait, that's so sweet of you.
I do that all the time, like anytime somebody says something clever. So say things clever in the Discord, and you never know. I might add it to my notes for later.
That's so funny. See, I do something similar, except I just, like, whenever I see something fun in the Discord, I forward it to myself. I also do it for, like, really good explanations, just so then I go back and I'm like, oh, that's how I can think of that. So mine probably won't be shared anywhere, but you'll have the satisfaction of knowing that you're in my DMs with myself.
Nice. I also, because I've been forgetting this for, like, 3 episodes now, want to tell people that I was on a recent episode of Game of Thrones. I was on season 2, episode 2 of House of the Dragon, and go listen to it if you haven't, because I literally kept forgetting to remind people about it. And yeah, I had a great time on there. And go listen to me nerd out. The end.
Dude.
Okay, now come back to this.
Slay!
So, Harmit, who died in these chapters?
Well, nobody yet, right?
Well, other than Cersei's plans, hopes, wishes, desires.
Yeah,
future.
Other than all of her ambitions. Yeah, other than that, nobody.
And what did you think of this chapter?
This was a wild one. I think.
And was it a worthy singular chapter to read?
I think so, because it just was so, like, oh my god. Like, you start off the chapter and you see, and like, even just the way that this chapter is written, it's so, like, it's so symmetrical and, like, beautiful, because it starts off and she's like, damn, bro, this is happening, and she's like, it's like, it starts off and it's her doing this facade in front of an audience, and then you get to, like, the middle and you kind of get some descriptions of what's going on with Marjorie, and you feel vile, you know what I mean? You're like, I kind of want to throw up, like, this is terrible. And then you get to the end and it's like, and Cersei's so deep in denial that she's trying so hard to keep up the facade, but she can't. And then at the very end, it's all the same things happening to her that you saw happening to Marjorie, that you were like, and it's like this weird, like, it's a weird fucking chapter, but almost, also all the religion was really weird. Like, I think what kept me from enjoying this chapter as much as I should have was just a lot of, like, the religious imagery going on, I think, and, like, just the associations I was making, that I just didn't really like.
Okay, you'll have to give me examples of that.
Yeah, I'll, like, once we're talking, I feel like I'm already saying too much, but, like, there was just a lot of, like, things that were happening with the, like, septas and the High Septon that I think just made me, like, really uncomfortable, which kind of kept me from enjoying the chapter as much as I could have.
Is it the everybody poking in at Marjorie's vagina to check for
That was one
hand.
that was one of them. That was one of them.
Um,
Yeah, and it was just like this weird intersection of like religion and like the way that like women are treated, and it just was like weird. But then the parts that I did really enjoy was just like I said before, like the writing where it was like, okay, this is what happened to Marjorie, and we were getting that like the exact details, and we were like, and then at the end it was like, well, Cersei, you were laughing at her getting all these things happen, like all these things happening to her, and it's like, girl, not that like I want these things to be happening to you, but you were happy when it was happening to someone else, and now it's happening to you. So it was like,
is it a comeuppance or is it not?
Yeah, it was
It's like we've been wanting a comeuppance for Cersei for so long, and then you're like, but not this, though.
Exactly. It's just a reminder that, like, I don't know, like, yeah.
I appreciate all the feelings you're having, and all of them are just correct.
Yeah, I think it's just like, it's like I really, yeah, like I think you kind of said it best just now, where it's like, I've been wanting her to get put in her place for so long, but it was just so hard to enjoy it because I just felt so bad for so much of it. But then there was moments where I was like, hey, I'm gonna push that aside and just enjoy it because this isn't a real person. This is literally fake. Just think of it as karma biting her in the ass, you know? So when I was able to do that, it was fun. I think this is one of those chapters where on a reread, I'm gonna like laugh so hard. But on a first read, I was kind of like, oh God, I think a little bit.
Yeah, fair.
So I liked it, but there were definitely a lot of moments where I felt really uncomfortable.
What a culmination to all the Cersei chapters, though, right?
Yeah, fucking weird, like, yeah, fucking weird. Like, that's all I got. Like,
What was I gonna say? So knowing where we are in the book, how do you feel about the chapter? Like, do you think we're gonna get other Cersei chapters?
No,
are we gonna hear about what happens to her? Like,
this is definitely last Cersei chapter core. Which is a little bit worrying because I'd like to know, you know, where we end up. I think maybe, like, I don't think we're gonna get any more Cersei chapters, but we might get like a Jaime decision chapter or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Or something like that. So I feel like that might be the closest we get. Or like, obviously, I feel like in the next book we'll get news about this. Like, oh, Cersei's fucking locked up, guys. Like, you know? I'm sure someone will hear about that. But I don't see us getting any more Cersei chapters, which is really frustrating. Because I would like to know what the fuck is going on, you know?
Yeah, fair. Okay. So, you've actually kind of summarized the chapter, but do you just want to do it officially within 30 seconds as we do, you know?
Yes, I'll do my best, yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, we start off, Cersei's doing an act. Oh, my daughter-in-law would never! Daughter-in-law locked up, and then she goes to High Septon, basically gloating. She's like, "Ayo, this is what the plans are, this is what he's gonna do." High Septon is like, yeah, this is what's going on, and we've arrested all these people, we're getting their confessionals, and then they go to see Osney, and Osney basically confesses because they tortured him, and he was like, you were just gonna send me to the wall. Then he basically says all the truths, and then Cersei gets locked
half
up.
A minute or whatever. Yeah. I also kind of lost track of it, I'm gonna be honest. But I was paying attention to what you were saying more than the time, okay?
Nice save. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I wasn't totally slacking off. That's not what I do here.
Totally
we are a very professional podcast where nobody ever interrupts us, and nobody's mom is ever pestering them to eat dinner.
And nobody's ever playing video games on their phone.
Hey, I use it as a way to focus on what people are talking about. Because if I'm just listening to you, you're so boring. Like, why would I want to do that?
Not enough stimulation for you? Totally get it.
It actually is, though. Like, even when I listen to podcasts, this is what I do. like not our podcast, like actually entertaining podcast, I still do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, what were we talking about? Okay, so we did the summary. Do you want to take us through this chapter, or should I?
I can start until you interrupt me.
Yes, that won't ever happen. I mean, me interrupt you with some mundane detail? Never.
Okay, hold on. Okay. So Cersei's, Holden Court. Septa Moelle comes up and she's like, hey, okay, basically Cersei's perceiving herself at first, and she's kind of like, wow, guys, like, I am
so
Tywin's
cool.
daughter. Yeah, she's like, the eyes of court and city were upon her, and she meant for them to see Lord Tywin's daughter. And that's basically like where she starts off, right? She's like, wow, I'm serving justice, and
she thinks she's the shit, but really she's just shit. Like
exactly. And she's like pretending to be really mad about this whole Marjorie and all three of her cousins being arrested thing. She's like, I demand that the High Septon release them, and Septa Moelle is like, yeah, sure, I'll let him know, but like until they're proven innocent, like the High Septon's not gonna let him go. And they kind of have this back and forth, and we find out that Megha and Eleanor, it's basically the plan that they had before, where like Megha and Eleanor were like, oh my god, they were conspiring, and like they were also having sex with other people, and then Alla was just here like innocent bystander, but she still like let it all happen, and Marjorie is the one actually committing adultery. And so that was the plan.
And high treason, because obviously she's the queen, so.
Yes, exactly. And some of the protests that Cersei is like half-assing here are so funny. Like her being like, my sweet son loved Marjorie, she would never do that. And it's like, anybody who's ever been in an interaction with you two knows how much you hated her. Like, literally, who does she think she's fooling right now? Because if I was sitting there in that court, I wouldn't be fucking fooled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, and so we find out that Osney has in fact confessed to, like, doing all these things with Marjorie. And he went to the High Septon, and, like, that's kind of how everything went down. And once this is announced, some of the ladies in the gallery like are kind of slowly leaving. Cersei's like, whatever, I'll let them, but I'm only letting them because I've told
some of like the Tyrell supporters are just kind of absconding while they can. I don't know if that's actually I don't know if you could use abscond in that way, but I still love that word so much that I'm gonna keep using it and inserting it into every sentence until I get grow tired of it. So
as you should. It's gonna be another precipice. I can't think about the word precipice without thinking of you. Like every time I think the other day I used it while I was talking to like a prof or something. Like it was a very professional conversation, and I was like, who do I think I am? Like literally, who do I think I am?
Do you think you're me?
No, because literally, and it's so funny, because before that, it was like one of those words that was like in my mind, but I never used enough to like when you were like, what's the fucking word? What's the fucking word? I was like, I don't fucking know, because it's not a word that I ever used before that. Yeah. Like it was just a word that was somewhere in the back of my mind. But ever since then, every time, my brain's always like, yeah, like, we're on the precipice of glory. And like, that's just where we're at.
We've had people like comment and they were like, was it precipice? Was it precipice that you were thinking about? Even though I think at the literal end of the episode, I finally remember it or something. So people are so annoyed by me not remembering it that they feel that they end up commenting like in the
before
middle
the episode's even over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we kept harping on it and like you couldn't move on.
Okay, listen, I can't move on. That's not a thing that is within my capabilities. Okay.
I know, it's just funny. It's just funny. Anyway, yeah. Absconding is gonna become another word like that I'm just always gonna associate with.
It's such a good word. Like words are so good.
It is such a good word, but I think it's one of those things where like a lot of words that like a lot of words like precipice and absconding where it's like there's simpler alternatives that we end up using more often. With a lot of those words, like, because I'm using the simpler alternatives more often, I have much stronger memories and associations with those words than I could ever form with the word fucking precipice.
Well, now thanks to me,
exactly.
That's all changed.
But now, because we're doing this bizarre thing where we just yap for hours into a microphone and then release it into the world, one of the bizarre experiences that I now have is I associate random phrases with our podcast and random words, and that's so one of them. Like, anyway,
it's okay. We're just expanding our vocabularies, or at least making use of our pre-existing vocabulary.
Yeah, literally. Yeah,
we're so smart.
Yeah, so the ladies are kind of like in solidarity with their little Tyrell girlies. And, paranoid Cersei is like, yeah, I told Osford to, like, take note of who's leaving. And she's like, oh, it can't be, Marjorie's a maiden.
Yeah.
And they okay, so the septa went in, and, like, multiple septas went into all the girls and freaking checked if their hymen was broken or not. But in, like, the most, like, invasive, disgusting, vile, filthy ways. Like, just walking in there and just, like, stripping them and not, like, they're like, what is going on? And it's just, like, you're just being examined like you're some fucking rat. Like, what? What? And it just,
and like nobody at any, so like Cersei thinks to herself, oh, I do hope the little queen and her cousins enjoyed those rides of theirs. And we've talked about the fact that like Marjorie may have had sex. That's besides the point, right? Like what Cersei is referring to is that like horse riding and how like earlier in the book she was like, oh yeah, like highborn girls, like, their hymen stretches out from horse riding, like more so than marriage. It happens all the time. And so nobody acknowledges that, like, even though that's like a like if Cersei
factor.
knows that it's a known fact. Also, that's not hymen's work though. Like, first off, some people just aren't born with one. Yeah. And hymen it's not a complete barrier. Like, it comes in different shapes and sizes. Yeah. It's just the, like,
there's no
lack
science,
of science.
There's no logic.
Is so frustrating.
And it's so silly. And I think it, like, I mean,
I don't know if they can find a single person that will, like, fit their qualifications for having a proper maidenhead or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I think it just comes down to, like, that's the problem, right?
It's misogynistic practice. Yeah, it's meant to just oppress them.
Absolutely. Yeah. But also, even on top of all of the, like, you're a fucking girl / woman, therefore, on top of that, it's also just, like, they do this with every fucking trial, where it's, like, it never, even, like, the fucking trial by combat shit, like, I feel like it's also just an extension of the flawed logic of, like, as soon as you get accused of something,
yeah, it's like guilty until proven innocent.
Exactly.
Instead of the other way around.
Thank you. And, like, that's what it was with Tyrion. That's what it was with Ned. That's just what it always is. And, like, not to say that's not what it ends up being in our world too, but at least in these books, it's just, like, never have I ever seen a normal trial or, like, a normal vote or, like, anything, Yeah. Yeah. So it's, like, it's all of that, like, you're just guilty automatically. The concept of a fair
trial does not even exist.
Exactly. And then on top of that, it's like, okay, she's a girl, and so we're gonna make this 20 times worse, and, like,
yeah, because, like, her body, obviously that's public property, so let's just have at it, like, do whatever we feel like doing. Yeah, let's sleep deprive people, and let's do some of that fun like, torture stuff, like, great.
Yeah. And as much as all of this sucked, I think that the worst part of it for me was just, like, like seeing Cersei's reactions to all of it, you know, and like, not that I expected better from Cersei, but it just hurts, like, being like, well, you're a fucking woman who's like been sexually assaulted, if not raped, like multiple times. You've had yourself violated in so many ways. You've spent so much of your life wanting to be a man and never really making those connections, and now you're like, hope they enjoyed their horseback rides. And now you're like,
yeah, she's taking like glee in the fact that like Marjorie's being violated in this manner.
And it just is, and I think that was kind of the hardest thing to stomach, because everything else is like, I hate to say it, but I'm kind of used to seeing it from these books. Like, we've had enough like women being violated scenes, but I think it just hits different when you're reading it from Cersei's perspective, and then you're like, oh god, like, people really do think like this, and it sucks, you know? Yeah, like, she's like, wow, the picture of this, like, ugly old woman poking around in Marjorie's little pink cunt was so droll. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
And then she's like, let's have Pycelle get up in there. And Pycelle, I was like, oh, Pycelle's, like, been the voice of reason. He's gonna be the one that brings up, like, the horse riding and, like, you know, the quote-unquote science or whatever. And... no, he's just like, oh, I don't need to check. I just know because she's been having me brew moon tea. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
And it's like, buddy.
I know he like Cersei's kind of got him in a position where he has to like admit to that or say it, even if it's not true or whatever.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I guess like I was expecting too much from him because he has become the sole voice of reason in this council. Like,
literally, yeah, and it's just like. It's also weird because it's just like, how, yeah, it, like, and yeah, I think like the science thing and the fact that like these people have never known how to host a fair trial, and I don't know if they ever will, but also it's just like, I don't know, like, just the fact that there's no, like, I don't know, like, nobody is like, hey, can we stop and take a sec? Like, you know? Sorry, I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, this whole first couple of pages, ignore the last minute of what I
like,
just said.
There's people out in the streets protesting, but nobody's, like, making these logical arguments at any point.
And to be fair, I know what I was going to say. To be fair, I know that, like, part of, like, you know, nothing being fair and, like, you're guilty until proven innocent, like, and that does make sense, right? Because when you have, like, a monarchy like this, it's like, you know, ain't nobody gonna be like, hey, Cersei, I think you're wrong. Or, like, not, like, because everyone knows Cersei doesn't like Marjorie anyway. And, like, I'm not gonna be like, hey, Cersei.
Cersei.
Hey, Cersei. You know your daughter-in-law who you hate? Let me actually defend her. Like, you know what I mean? If I was on the council, I wouldn't feel comfortable bringing that up with Cersei either. But it's just annoying to see it, you know? Anyway, yeah. So the Pycelle stuff happens. And so now Cersei is kind of gloating inside her head. She's like, Marjorie is done for. I am killing it. Cersei lands on top, basically. And she's like, Maggie the frog can go suck it because all of her prophecy was wrong, you know? And she's getting way too ahead of herself. Mm-hmm. And then,
like, when you start, like, I think you predicted Cersei's doom in the last episode. So, like,
yeah,
it couldn't have come as too much of a surprise. But like when through the chapter as it was going, like, did you see it going that way once you started reading the chapter?
I immediately started the chapter and I was like, this isn't right. I was like, this isn't right. And you know what I thought was gonna happen? I thought that when she got to visit, like when she walked in to visit Marjorie, all of that was immediately gonna go down. I didn't realize it was gonna be like, chill visit with Marjorie, catch up with praying with the High Septon, and then we launched the trap and the attack. I just assumed that it was like she would show up there and Marjorie and the High Septon are sitting in a room and like, we've been waiting for you. Like, I was imagining more of that scenario rather than like a Marjorie is also locked up. So I think my thing was, because I think I was like, oh, now that Osney's actually, I remember saying that now that Osney's actually slept with Cersei, he's like, quote unquote, like, you know, like won her, so now he doesn't need to like do the thing, you know what I mean? I remember saying that. Or that like he's not going to be as committed to what he has to do because like he's already had sex with Cersei, like that's what he wanted anyway. But I didn't think that it would be like, oh, the High Septon tortures him and then he like isn't able to deal with it sort of thing. I just figured it would be like he wouldn't be that committed and like maybe Marjorie could just easily get him on his side. So I think the thing I was wrong about was the credit I was giving Marjorie a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, me too. Because like, it appears that Marjorie is kind of aware of Cersei's plan to at least some extent, if not entirely. And she seems to have fallen into the trap entirely.
Anyway, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because especially because the amount of hints that George R. R. Martin had given us that she was catching on.
Yeah.
Like, this just felt weird. And that's why I fully was expecting, like, oh yeah, they're doing the whole, like, Cersei gets to parade around, like, oh no, the High Septon arrested her. But they're just doing that so that they can take her down better. Like, you know what I mean? Build her up to break her down more. Like, but then when she got there and and Marjorie, like, at first tried to be like, oh, mother-in-law, please help. And then after it wasn't working was like, you know what? I know you fucking hate me, bitch. You know, like, that was the part where I kind of was like, what's going on? Like, is Marjorie actually struggling right now? And I guess so.
Also, remind me, like, later to tell you maybe part of a theory about Marjorie's plan, like a potential theory. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Remind me later.
Because I had a passing thought where I was like, is this part of the plan? But it just felt too, like, if it was part of Marjorie's plan, it felt too manufactured and like way too like, you didn't need to do all this to get her to, you know what I mean? Like, especially because I guess my thing is, if Marjorie is as cunning as I initially thought that she was, and, like, Cersei keeps slipping up around her anyway. Like, I just think that if I were Marjorie, I wouldn't feel the need to even, like, stage a coup at all. You could just easily trap Cersei. Like, it wouldn't take a lot, I think. So I just feel like if that whole thing was fabricated or whatever, like, then it just feels dramatic for no reason, I think. So that's why it's easier for me to believe that Marjorie is in fact struggling right now than like Marjorie somehow like being in on it or like there being a different plan for Marjorie coming from someone else. Just because it just feels like, well, then why go through all that trouble, you know?
No, I agree with you. I think, yeah, maybe she underestimated Cersei's, like, maybe she was like, yeah, Cersei's, like, trying to set me up, but, like, as long as I don't actually, she's not gonna, like, lie, you know?
Yeah, but little did she know that Cerseiry? I keep saying.
What is with Cerseiry?
That Cerseiry
What is the sorcery that Cersei has sourced upon you? Or, I don't know. All right, so, okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When did Harris Swift show up?
Oh, he was the Hand.
Okay, I totally forgot about this guy.
Like once, so Harris Swift is, what's Tywin's brother's name? Kevin. Kevin's father-in-law, okay? So Kevin's wife's dad, okay? So she's like, I'm gonna make him Hand, but really I'm holding him hostage over Kevin.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, and that's why at the end he calls for Kevin.
Well, yeah, that too, but also Kevin's like the last competent person left in the realm, so like
no, that makes sense.
On their side, you know?
Okay, yeah, that also makes sense. Because I just was like, I just like kind of forgot that this guy was on council, and I just couldn't remember why or how.
Yeah, so he
up.
was the hand, and remember last chapter or the chapter before, she was like, Merryweather, I'm gonna make you hand, and Swift can actually be the master of coin or something.
Right.
Like, because Rosby died.
Yeah.
So we don't get confirmation of that, but I think at this point in time, maybe Swift is now like master of coin and Merryweather is hand.
I see. Okay.
But maybe that change hasn't occurred yet. I don't know for a fact. So they're like walking down the hall, like it's Swift, it's Orain Waters, it's Merryweather, and you know, they're talking about like what they're gonna do about this. And Orain Waters is like, oh, you know what? Let me get all my ships up and going so that if there's a riot, we can stop it. Or like the threat of the ships will stop a riot from happening. And she's like, oh yes, prudent measure. Let's do it. I want your ships crewed and on the water.
Oh my god.
And that comes back to bite her in the ass as well.
Who would have thought that if you give somebody a job based off of just them being attractive and young, and then you do not hold them accountable anytime that they ask you for more money or more ships or anything, that they might not end up being helpful to your cause? Wow. Yeah. It's almost like you shouldn't give people jobs based off of being attractive and then not hold your employees accountable or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
See, so that was the kind of stuff that was fun, where it was like, Cersei, you done fucked up, you know, and here are the things, you know?
Yeah. And like every decision she's made this book has been just bad.
Yes.
So then she, like, not Merryweather. Swift is like, oh, Tyrell's gonna be so mad. There's gonna be blood in the streets. And she's like, oh, your sigil shouldn't be a chicken. It should be a worm. A chicken is too bold for you.
Oh, God.
I did find that to be funny because, you know, like,
yeah,
when somebody's a coward, they're a chicken. But if they're so much of a coward, they're a worm.
Yeah.
And you know, she's like, it's fine, I'll talk to the Septon and broker peace. And then she's like, yeah, well, you know, so a trial might be necessary, but we'll do what we need to do. Like, she like, this whole time, she's like, you gotta have a trial, you can do it by combat, but you don't have any good knights, and like, the faith should do the trial, and like all of those things. She's setting it up, and now she's being judged by the same metrics. It's kind
of what's the phrase? It's like cosmic justice, you know? For Cersei.
I guess, yeah. Except for the fact that we don't really like this type of justice.
Yes.
I don't know what a good type of justice for her would be, but I'm not in the business of doling out justice, so I don't have to think about that.
Yeah, but remember how I said I got all my annoyances out at the beginning, so now I can just annoy Cersei getting her karma. So now I'm like,
annoy or enjoy?
Oh, sorry, enjoy. So now
I got so confused by that sentence.
Yes, so now I can just sit back and have a little chill pill.
Okay. Yeah, so they might have to try. And then she's like, oh, okay, but I'm first gonna go I'm gonna go see Tommen. And she sees him and he's fishing for cats. So adorable.
Oh, every Tommen chilling scene makes me feel so bad for him. This
kid deserves so much better.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So she like goes and hugs him, and apparently she's crying, and like he's like, why are you crying? And obviously her answer is, lions don't cry. I'm not crying. Like, don't cry. Crying is weak. Like, whatever, right? But internally she's thinking to herself, I'm crying because you're finally safe. Is
Ugh.
that true, do you think? Or why
Do
is
I
she crying?
do I think that she's finally safe? I don't know. I don't think that I really stopped to think about this, so I'm gonna do that now. Hold on. I just kind of was like, yeah, I was just paying attention to Tom and hanging out. Maybe it's just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe it's like a weird sort of relief. Like,
So maybe she is like, it's
maybe it
like
is like,
genuinely like she's relieved that her kid's safe now from the clutches of
I
this
I don't
evil
think I don't
queen.
think it's because Tommen's safe. I think it's because she's safe now.
Ah, okay. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Like I think it's more of like her being like, oh, thank God a younger queen isn't about to kill me and take me over
I
right
guess
now.
like, yeah, Maggie the Frog has been such a overbearance in her life
Yeah.
that to kind of, in her opinion, see that come down.
Yeah. And it's also the thing of like every time she does something quote unquote for her kids, but it's actually just for her and her own ego and shit. So I think it's probably just all of that
Right.
hanging out in her mind.
Yeah. So then she's like, oh, here, Tommen, here's some warrants. Sign and seal them for me. She's just got him trained to just like, I put a paper in front of you and you sign it, which once again comes to bite her in the ass later because the kid's like now like, oh, paper. Yes, of course I'm going to play with the wax seal, you know?
Yeah.
And what she's having him sign are arrest warrants, but she doesn't fill in the names. And I'm like, was he even gonna really read the names? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
But like he signs them blank. So like I think it just adds more to just how trusting he is. Like he doesn't even, he's so young. Like why would a however like 8-9-year-old question why these are blank, you know?
Yeah.
Except I'm like, wasn't Arya like 8 when this whole thing started? And isn't she like, she would have totally questioned that? But
yeah, but
Arya
I think
is Arya, Tommen is Tommen.
Yeah, and also like you and I would have, but we also had a very different like Tommen and us are different people.
Yes, okay, all right.
Like,
don't bring up our trauma. We're talking about Cersei's trauma.
Like Tommen is literally the youngest boy of 3, and we had oldest immigrant AFAB syndrome. Like it like we had all the fucking components, bro. And like this boy has literally none of them.
Right. Okay, fair enough. But so it's all the other people that are being accused of fornicating with Marjorie. And it's Sir Taladotol, Jalabarzo, Hamish the Harper, Hugh Clifton, Mark Mullendore, Bayard Norcross. Some of these names,
Half of these,
I
I'm
swear
like,
I
who
see
even
them
is
for the
this?
first time. Yeah,
Literally.
Lambert Turnberry, Horace Redwine, Hobber Redwine, and obviously Watt the Blue Bard.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, the only ones I know from here are okay.
The red wines, you know,
Yeah.
the blue bard, Jalabarzo, Jalabarzo, we know. Oh, it rhymes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've heard some of the other names, like they're like some of them are like they've been courting the cousins or something like that.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Like the Harper is like a musician, you know, so things like that.
Yeah, makes sense. It was just silly because I was like, I swear half of these are new. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, they're just some guys.
Yeah.
But so then she like hands all the warrants to Osford, who's in charge of arresting everyone. Also, isn't anybody going to be suspicious that his brother accused everybody and now he's like his brother is also one of the accused and he's arresting? I don't know. Doesn't matter. And apparently he can't read. Like he looks at the parchments as if he can't read, and I don't know if I think that's true. I wonder if they're putting that on for Cersei's benefit so that they can get access to some high top secret stuff for Littlefinger's benefit, you know?
Right, about the fact that they can't read. Maybe, yeah. But I also, and maybe it was just because I read it, so then I just kind of believed it. But like, I feel like
Don't
I have
believe everything you read, especially on them internet kids.
But like I just remember, like, you know when Sansa got like row 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 your boat it out of there?
Yes.
I have a vague memory of during that chapter when we were finding out that all the O's were in Littlefinger's pocket.
Yeah.
I remember then too learning that they couldn't read or something, so I just figured it was true.
Oh, I didn't remember that part.
But also,
about them
like
not being able to read. Because what the deal with the row, row, row your boat out of King's Landing is that their dad, you know, Kettle Black Sr., is the one who is rowing them to the boat.
Yeah.
And Sansa's like, I recognize him. Who is he? And then, like, later on we find out, like, oh, he's the dad. The Kettle Blacks are his, all of that.
Yeah.
But I don't... And they are kind of like they aren't highborn people. They were, you know, common servants to, like, Littlefinger. And Littlefinger himself isn't, like, very... Like, we saw his, like, holding, you know, like... It's not a very rich land or anything like that. But I feel like Littlefinger would have put the effort and money, energy into getting his spies to know how to read.
Right.
Maybe I'm giving him too much credit.
But
I don't know.
But I guess my thing is also that maybe it's more of like they started off as spies where it was like it was more of a they slip it to me, I read it, and they're just kind of... So then it's less dangerous because they don't know what they're reading.
Yeah, but now he's in all the way in the Eyrie, in the Vale.
Right.
How
So
are they
would
getting...
he...
Yeah, like, you can't trust your messages to another person, like...
Right, yeah. That makes sense. So, that makes sense. I guess I was
like, I don't have any evidence for this. I just, like, have a suspicion for it.
Yeah, I think you're making
and anytime Cersei's like, I'm certain about this thing, I'm like,
you should doubt it.
Reason to doubt, exactly.
The sky is blue. Actually, it's not.
It really isn't, though.
Well, exactly. But it's I think maybe there's something to that. Yeah, I think that I just read it and my brain was like, I feel like we knew this, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, she's telling him to arrest all these people, and she's like, okay, some of them might flee, but that's fine. It's gonna only make them look more guilty. Talad is gonna fight. Just make sure he doesn't kill too many of you. And that he doesn't die before confessing. And also don't do harm to any of the others, because a few may be innocent, because her whole plan is like, oh, the red wines are going to be proven innocent, to then, like, well, obviously she needs the red wines on her side because of the ships and all that, but also because, like, if few people are found to be innocent, then the guilty ones look more guilty and all of that. She's thought about, like, all the convoluted things, but not the simplest things, like how the common people are gonna react. Like, later on she's surprised that they're rioting for Marjorie, like yeah, like,
that's the
literally
thing. It's
right.
like she gets so trapped in her own mind and lost in her own schemes that she's like, clearly this is so smart, but it's because she's stuck in her own fucking puzzle. Yeah.
And with her, like, kind of inability to see the impact of the regular people is all, like, based on how little she values them and how she, you know, like, people should fear you, and Marjorie's trying to do the they love me thing, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And then, so she hears about, like, people gathering in the streets, like 100 or so, shouting for Marjorie, and then she's like, isn't it funny that the Septon is being besieged by these guys when he himself was kind of made the High Septon in a similar situation.
Oh my god.
And then she makes another decision of which the consequences we don't quite know yet.
Mm-hmm.
She orders them to close the gates, and no one is to enter or leave King's Landing without my leave until all is done and settled. Now, she's no longer in power by the end of this chapter, so I don't know how long this decree stands, but I was curious, like, say Jaime's like, yeah, I'm gonna save Cersei. He comes riding, and they're like, no, sorry, we can't let you in. Like,
no, we can't let you in. Yeah, right. Wait, I didn't
but
even
maybe
think about
that's
that.
like not a thing at all, because like, you know, Pycelle and Swift are in power at the end, and they're like, yeah, we want people in, so open the gates.
Because I think by then, like, everybody would know that Cersei was there, right? But I guess, to be fair, by the end of the chapter, Tommen didn't know yet. So maybe at least temporarily, Harris and Swift were going to keep it under wraps until Kevin got there.
Harris and Swift? Harris Swift is one person.
Swift and Pycelle, that guy.
I thought a third character named Harris came up, and I had to like think that through for a second.
Oh my god.
Harris, thank you for letting me pick on you for all these ridiculous reasons.
No, it's okay. It's funny. I keep saying I don't even know.
Cerseiry, Harris, and Swift.
Yeah, you guys.
Harris and Swift does sound like some, like.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some pawn shop, some law.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Attorneys at law or something.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to the listeners. We haven't, like, it hasn't been that long since we recorded, but like we recorded like 3 weeks ago, and I've been on vacation for like the last 2 weeks, and like
Brag
a full
about
2
it.
weeks. Not bragging, but it's like
but you should.
Okay, slay. But I fully was like gone, and like literally brain was head empty, no problems, and it was amazing.
No problems.
No, brain was like head empty of all problems. And then literally I got back and I was like, oh wait, not me ignoring everything, it's fine. But so the point is brain is struggling to get back to routine, because brain is like, Cerseiry. So, yeah.
All right. Let's move on. So.
Oh, wait, sorry. I had a point about this.
Yeah,
okay. So she's she's talking.
I forgot what the point was even about. Like.
No. I hadn't started saying the point yet, so you couldn't have known. This was an additional thing.
Continue.
This was outside of
Swift.
Yes,
this is about them.
This is outside of my problems with saying their names. Okay, so she's talking about how it's a little funny that His Holy Highness now has to deal with a mob when he, upset her with his mob. And she's like, yeah, since such a mob has raised him to his crystal crown, which he promptly sold. Shut up.
I'm sorry. I am gonna shut up now.
Which he promptly sold. So there was a crown and he sold it?
Yeah, we knew this. Weapons? She goes to see him, and he's like looking all raggedy, and she's like, why aren't you greeting me with your crown that Tywin like replaced? Because the original one was like mobbed by the riot.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, oh well, he does the whole, we don't need a crown. We need food.
I see. I was worried that this has been now used for like weapons or something, and I was like, oh my
probably
god,
that too. Like, right, yeah, probably.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay,
but we knew that it had been sold.
Okay, cool. Well, fun little reminder then.
Yeah. That, like, she's like still talking about all the people she's having arrested. She's like, oh, the Harper's too old. He wasn't doing the sex, but he was watching the sex. Make that the thing that he says. Like,
and
yeah, we'll need details. And what's her creepy guy's name? Qyburn is like, oh, I'll make sure I shall help him remember them. Just of course.
Gross, annoying.
Then she gets dressed to go to the sept, and she wears like a plain woolen brown dress, and she's like, oh, it's so modest and it's not gonna get dirty. And Merryweather Taina, you're gonna come with me and you'll talk to the cousins while I talk to Marjorie and get Alla on our side, you know. I'm like, you let her get arrested before you got her on your side?
Yeah, and you think now
like,
she's gonna join you? Like,
this should have been like step 1.
Yeah, like,
why leave it till so late?
Yeah, but like, to be fair, I don't know if it would have worked either way, because it just feels flawed. So maybe it like maybe now they're just gonna try anyway.
But this seems like way too late. Like,
yeah, it's
even surprising to me. It's surprising to me both that they let Taina in to talk to them and that they let her go.
Right, yeah.
But I guess they couldn't like pin down any accusations against her, so they had to let her go. Because they still gotta keep up the facade of being fair, even though they aren't.
Right.
Okay, so then she takes like 10 guards and Boris Blunt for protection. She's not taking Osmond because like them claddles be too black for these streets these days, you know?
Ayo.
Was that racist? No, I didn't. I meant it as their last name. Okay,
yeah,
I meant it like that.
No, I don't. Kate, stop! I don't think that's racist at all. And I think that if somebody listens,
I think I heard it later, and then I was like, "They're too black for the streets," and I was like, "Wait, no, that's not what I mean."
No, it just was an unfortunate, like, they just have an unfortunate
I was trying to be
name.
clever, but instead I just ended up being horrible. Okay, so,
it was just silly gone wrong.
Yeah, so this is when, like, on the ride there, her and Taina are chatting, and Taina's like, ooh, what if she demands a trial by combat? And Cersei's like, well, I've thought of that. She can only be defended by a knight of the Kingsguard, and now Loras can't fight. Jaime is gone. 2 competent knights are in Dorne, one of which we know is dead, but they don't know is dead. And the ones that are left here are incompetent or brothers to the accuser, so they can't fight. And they have a good chuckle about how there's no good knight to defend the queen. And keep this in mind, Cersei.
I love the way that this chapter is written, where instead of talking about Marjorie or like, this is happening to Marjorie, they say, this is going to happen to the queen. This is happening to the queen. Because then when the roles flip later on, it's like, haha, Cersei. Especially because Cersei
applies to all of the above.
Exactly. Especially because Cersei has spent this whole book, like, ever since Tommen and Marjorie got married and people have called Marjorie the queen, Cersei always makes a point to point out, like, I'm the fucking queen. I'm the motherfucking queen. Even in this chapter, literally in this chapter, when people are like, this bad thing is... It's funny because Cersei in this chapter both is like, but Marjorie's the queen, and the queen can only be defended by the Kingsguard. But then even in this chapter, there's a moment where she goes, but I'm the queen. So it's like, girl, pick a lane.
She's always like, I'm the queen. Externally, she's like, Marjorie's a queen.
Yeah, but it still feels like she can admit it without admitting it, you know?
No, but moving on.
What do you mean?
I don't know, your sentence didn't make sense to me, and I think it's just because my brain didn't process it, so I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
So then not Marjorie. What's her name? Cerseiry is like okay, now I can't say her name actually. Cersei is like, oh, everything's gonna be like perfect now. You should bring your son over and him and Tommen can be best friends and it's gonna be great. And she's like, yeah, I'm sure he would like that, but things are just so uncertain now. I just thought it best to wait until danger is past. So like, I mean, Merryweather is obviously a double, triple, some kind of agent, right? And obviously she doesn't want to put her son in danger, but I wonder if she knows more about this situation than we know she knows, you know?
Yeah, this definitely did come off very suspiciously, I will say.
Yeah. So Cersei's like, yeah, it's fine. It's gonna end soon. Just send word to your long table, like that's where they're from, and have them packing. And then they finally get to the Sept of Baelor, and it's the bones and stuff has been cleared away, but like people are gathering kind of in clusters, shouting for Marjorie. And the guards outside the Sept don't have like steel weapons, but did the knights inside, the knights do, right? The knights have like swords, the Rainbow Knights or whatever they're called.
Okay, hold on, I actually don't remember.
But she's like, oh, it's good that they don't have steel, but literally, Cersei, you made it legal for them to have steel, so like how long is it gonna take until they get that steel?
Yeah, literally. Girl, like what?
So everybody parts, they make their way in. I think her knights, everybody, like her guard waits outside, so she and Taena go inside. And obviously the Septon is praying, because, you know, gotta have that, gotta maintain that image. I love how I'm never like, oh yeah, because religion. No, it's all performance. Religion is just performative. That's my hot take of the episode.
That's your hot take of the day? Well, okay, my hot take is everything is performative.
Fair.
Yeah. I think that...
No, we're not gonna go down the is religion performative line. No, it's a one and done statement. We're gonna move on, okay?
Okay, so basically everything is performative is where we've landed.
Well, I will say this type of like organized religion in this manner is definitely performative.
I think this chapter is the epitome of performative religion. I think when it comes to people like Maribald and like that sort of thing, it's like, it's nice and
that's like the spiritual part of religion. Mm-hmm. This is the performance part of religion.
Yeah, this is the, yeah, definitely. But I would also argue though that there's performance associated with the good parts of religion too. That's why I'm trying to differentiate a bit. But like, I think in terms of like the group performance, performative. But like Maribald going around and like, he is still preaching. He's just not as aggressive about it. You know what I mean? Like, right. It's still him like performing it and sort of being like, this is the way that I live. Like, okay, but this is what I take.
For some reason in my brain, performing and performative are different things.
Well, that is true. But I guess we started using both, like, in this discussion, we started using both as one and the same.
Yeah, okay. So well, we're done with the discussion. We're moving on. We have too many other things to discuss.
Yes. Anyway, I guess my thing is, this chapter is definitely, like, this chapter is very much what the fuck religion. Because it also just adds to the, like, fucking, like, oh, because the Septo was doing it, it was okay to violate Marjorie, and it was okay to violate Cersei, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's kind of the specific part in this chapter that I take issue with, and that's all I'm gonna say about religion, just the way that religion was being used to justify terrible things. Moving on.
I agree. Yeah, so it's, you know, she's like, okay, take me to see Marjorie, and he's like, for sure, come on, and so Taena goes to see the cousin. She sees Marjorie. Marjorie is not living the life. Like, she's been given a very, you know, raggedy robe or shift or whatever. She's just got like a straw mattress, some water, a Bible or the 7-pointed star rather, a candle to read it by, and like a very, very tiny, narrow window. And I think that's basically it. And, you know, Cersei's like, oh my God, it's so sad. And Marjorie's like, at first she's kind of confiding, like, they took away my pretty clothes. Like, not even took away my pretty clothes. They ripped the pretty clothes off my body, which, yeah. And like, the cousins, like the cousins who are basically children. Also, a reminder, Marjorie's like 15 or maybe 16. Like, she herself is a child.
Yeah.
And they're being kept apart, not allowed any visitors, except Septas keep bothering them every hour to get them to confess, and they're not letting them sleep. And last night, she confessed that I wanted to scratch the Septa's eyes out, which yeah. And Cersei's like, oh, shame you didn't do it, really. Like, in her head, that would have really persuaded the High Sparrow for your guilt. And, you know, Cersei's trying to do, like, you know, nothing can be done.
I'm so helpless.
Yeah, they have all these witnesses.
Yeah.
There's got to be a trial. But you can decide the type of trial. You can have a trial about combat. And she's like, yeah, but there's, like, Loras can't fight. There's literally no one who is able to do that. So
yeah,
she's like,
and it just is so, like, it's so fucking, like, even if Marjorie didn't know what was going on inside Cersei's head, right? Let's say Cersei had been so nice this whole time and played it up and made it seem like she loved Marjorie.
mm-hmm.
Even then, this would be a weird fucking conversation. Because you have the daughter-in-law going, this is literally maybe one of the most traumatizing days of my life and everything fucking sucks. And, like, you're my mother-in-law. And you have the mother-in-law going, I know I'm the queen, but I just can't do much. The High Septon, you know what I mean? Isn't it wild that they, like, you know, even if Marjorie was delusional, this would be like, what? But especially because Marjorie isn't,
especially since Cersei's the one who gave the High Septon the power.
Exactly. And, like, yeah, and Marjorie has, like, a couple of moments where, like, at one point she's like, if they think that, like, they're gonna get, like, lies out of my cousins, like, that's not gonna happen. Like, Your Grace, this is obscene. Like, she's trying, bro. Like, I don't know how she's being this diplomatic in this moment, but she's fucking trying before she kind of snaps, because Cersei's just not even giving her anything to work with, you know?
Yeah. Eventually she's like, you want me to die, you evil bitch. She says, like, she has some very nice choice words. Where she's like, oh, you hurt me, I will forgive you, you're just in distress. Like, she's trying to do that whole thing. Yeah, will you make me call my jailers and have you dragged away, you vile, scheming, evil bitch?
Dude, that was a fucking line. And also when she said, Cersei's like, oh, you wrong me, daughter. All I want. And then Marjorie's like, is your son. All for yourself. He'll never have a wife that you don't hate. And I'm not your daughter. Thank the gods. Leave me. Like, girl, that was, like, the most banger thing she could have said. Like,
yeah.
And it also just was so fucking soap opera coded.
But so true.
And so true, so reality coded too, especially, like, you know, Indian households, man, like, there's just there's a very certain dynamic too that I just was like, I don't like that this reminds me of that. I want to be able to just read my little fantasy book, you know? This was a while, and, like, even in context, banger line. Like, what? Ugh.
Yeah. Wow. So she, like...
And then it says, Cersei gathered up her skirts and dignity.
Yeah.
That was funny.
I was gonna say the exact same thing.
That was funny.
This is when she's like, I'll forgive you, you're having a hard time. But, yeah, if I were you, I would pray. And then guess what, Cersei? It's about to be you.
Oh my god.
LOL. So then she gets escorted down a bunch of steps by these, like, 4 old septas, and she's like, I can take them. Like, she's basically thinking that. And they go, like, way down, like deep into Visenia's hill under the sept, and the High Septon's waiting for her, and it's like a room, it's like a judgment room basically, and he's kind of like, she's saying all these things like, I spoke to the queen, yeah, all men sin. He's like, yeah, sins can be forgiven, but crimes have to be punished, but there can't be any forgiveness either without confession. And Cersei's like, yeah, maybe she's innocent. And he's like, yeah, no, that's not a thing. We've already decided she's guilty. And the whole thing. And she's like, oh, I guess there'll have to be a trial. But since Tommen loves her so much, we can't have an unbiased trial at like the crown, so the faith should do it. And he's like, I agree completely.
Oh my god.
And then she's like, yeah, and maybe she should have the opportunity to have a champion and a Kingsguard knight. And he's like, I agree again. Like, he's just like, she's setting all this up, but she doesn't realize it's for herself.
And she doesn't realize that she's like, it's like, you're so right, but then there's also the thing of like, it's, and you get this immediately when he says like no, because it's like, she thinks that she's coaxing him into this.
Yeah.
But he was just gonna do all of this anyway.
It's also like reminiscent of her first conversation with him, where she's like, oh, I manipulated him like Tywin would have. Like, I got everything I wanted. And in fact, really, she gave up like so much.
Everything. And it's like, girl, you did not negotiate. Like, that's not a negotiation if I've ever seen one. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and like, she's so taken aback by that, and it's like, oh my god, me when I read dynamics so wrong. Like, what?
Yeah, she's like pulling out the fake tears and shit, and she's like, okay, where's Osney? Let me see him. I'll take him back to the castle, because like, people want to question him. And this is when he just says, no. It was only a word. One little word, but to Cersei it felt like a splash of icy water in the face. She blinked, and her certainty flickered, just a little. She's like, yeah, we'll keep him safe, I promise. And he's like, no, he's safe here, come look. And they go to the torture chamber where Osney is being whipped, or has been whipped so badly that he's just like bruises. Like, I don't even know.
Yeah, he be looking bad. He be looking bad for sure.
Yeah, and she's like, why did you whip him? He gave you the truth, like, he confessed freely. And he's like, I have heard many confessions, but seldom have I heard a man so pleased to be so guilty. So this guy sauntered in there with like
yeah, he just walked in and
not
he
a
was
very
like,
good actor.
I mean, yeah, also I think it's like, he's just like some young guy, and he just like, he begged, like, I hate to say it this way, but I think this is how it was in his head. Like, he just begged the woman he wanted to beg. Like, and I can totally see,
Can you just
the
say
vision.
fucked? Bagged sounds so much worse.
But that's, I'm saying it how he would have thought about it intentionally. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine that mindset. And then you walk in and you're like, yeah, I just gotta go to the wall for a second. And then, like, you know what I mean? Like, can you imagine, like the confidence of some mediocre man. And then that confidence
the thing is, I
after...
can't.
But like, it could just like,
I have never been mediocre nor a man, so
just like completely leaving your mind, body, spirit, soul, but like, just like, so imagine that confidence, and then imagine the confidence after you have just slept with a woman that you'd been wanting to
or
for so
more
long,
like
and you'd been trying to
raped
convince her
really.
for so long. Yeah, but like you'd been trying to convince her for so long, and all
But
all
I think the fact that
things.
he like kind of dominated her in that moment adds to the power trip that he was probably feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're right.
Anyway,
yeah, so all the things.
Like, in theory, I get it, but I just was like, this is like,
yeah, it was a
Cersei
little
should
like,
have held
come
auditions
on.
like before she gave this job to anyone.
Yeah, but Cersei's bad at hiring people, as we know. Cersei equals worst hiring manager. Nobody hire her to be your hiring manager, please.
And you know, so he was very pleased to be so guilty, and she's like, so you whipped him? And this is the weird, like, oh, whipping can, like, there's no penance without pain. I seldom feel so close to God as when I'm being whipped. So he's got like his own like masochism going on that he's inflicting on others. It's like this weird, there's too many things happening and I can't take it.
Yeah. This is yeah. It's a little bit of an uncomfy chapter for sure. And that's why it's like this is one of those chapters where like the misogyny and like the weird like extremist religion shit they got going on, like all of it just fucking, and then on top of that Cersei just being Cersei, like this is a weird fucking chapter for sure.
Yeah, and like I get the whole like BDSM is like, you know, it's how a lot of people enjoy sexual relations, but it's it felt weird in this, like, I don't know. It was, I guess it was the fact that he's like, this is what I get pleasure in, so this is why so I'm gonna torture you and then you're gonna feel pleasure from it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Exactly.
It's just,
like it's not, I don't even think, I think it's like we can't even compare BDSM in this, you know what I mean? Because this is like fucking like religious guilt 2.0 fucking going on.
There's
and,
like no form of consent in this. BDSM like is built all upon consent. This is all just, this is everything but consent. Oh
yeah,
this chapter
you can
should
say
be
that
called
again.
Everything But Consent.
Everything but consent. Oh my god.
Okay,
dude.
So yeah, this is when this is, I think I said this earlier, but this is when he actually says like, yeah, he confessed his sins, but he also committed crimes. Sins can be forgiven, but crimes have to be punished. So it's like, what's the whole point? Like, what's the point of your religion? Like, if you can't even like,
oh my god.
Anyway, I don't actually believe that. I don't know what I believe. So
I don't know what I believe. Yeah, I think this is a weird fucking chapter. Moving on.
Yeah, so then he's like, yeah, we started whipping him, and the more we whipped him, the more his story changed, and now he claims that he never touched Marjorie. And Kettle Black looks up and he's like, you promised me the wall. And Cersei's like, oh, he's mad, you've driven him mad. And then this is when the High Septon's like, oh, so Sir Osney, did you have carnal knowledge of the queen? And this is when he turns and says, yeah, that one there, she's the queen I fucked. And also confesses that she sent him to kill the old High Septon.
Oh god, cherry on top.
Yeah, so like I think we theorized about it, or maybe even known it, but like now we know it. That she had him killed, and it was Osney who actually did the killing. And this is when Cersei just whirls and runs, except she doesn't get very far. Like she takes down the ones that she was like, I can take them, but then she runs up the stairs, and then she just kind of is like attacked by a mob of septas.
Yeah, and this is so like Girly sees the writing on the wall and is like, no. and is just it's just wild. I know that, like, Cersei is delusional with a capital D, but, like, yeah, but, like,
if you were Cersei, what would you have done differently in this situation?
But I'd already done all the previous actions.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, sorry, my brain was just going, like, the ABCDs of Cersei always being Cersei delusional. Like, my brain was just fucking saying that anyway, so I couldn't stop thinking about it. I think that I would be like, okay, hi Septon, we both know what just fucking happened here. And we also know that I'm the one who gave you this power.
Yeah, and but if he has the power now.
Okay, shut up. I never said this plan would work. I said this is what I would do.
Okay.
That's not exactly how I would say it. I would try to be a bit more diplomatic with, like, I think I'd be like, look at what I've given you, and think about how me being in power could give you so much more. And, like I would just try to at least temporarily, because my thing would be, get out of this situation. But he's
a righteous religious guy. He doesn't care about your power. He cares about...
Can you listen? Can you listen? Can you listen? Can you listen? I would... No, that's not true. And we both know that. So I would just basically do what I had to do to get out of the here and now. Because then later on, like, I can find a way to fucking kill him before he tells everyone. You know what I'm saying? But at least for now, like, you just need to make it out of this situation alive without getting arrested. And running away is probably the worst thing you could do. Because A, you don't know where you're going in this place. B, everybody here is not loyal to you. And it's funny because it's like, none of her people are loyal to her either, as she finds out. But especially, like, you can't expect the Septas and shit to be loyal to you. They don't even know you. But it's like, she's already delusional about how the whole kingdom and her own people are loyal to her. But in this chapter, even right at the end, the whole time, like, she spends so much time just being like, no, like, Osfrey is gonna come up here and save me, or like, this person's doing this right now, and like, it just is like, girl, like, you ain't got nobody, just accept it. And it also, like, it starts off even before the arrest. It's right before Osney says, the wall, you promised me the wall. She thinks to herself, like, he's just a priest, he cannot do this. And that's when the high priest is saying, like, we're just gonna kill Osneys and, like, whatever, you know? And she's like, he can't do this. And it's like, girl, you're the reason he can do this. You're the reason he can do this. And he is more than just a priest now. But it's like, she just doesn't, I guess all I'm saying, all of that to say that it, like,
I think you lost your thesis there.
Hold on. The writing's always been on the wall ever since she started doing these things, and she could have seen it. But now it's like, somebody is shining a fucking lamp. And, like, the sun is out. And it's no longer dark. And she's like, guys, why are my eyes being blinded by the light? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, she really isn't reading the writing on the wall. Like, I guess my thing is just, like, not to say that, like, I wouldn't end up in a bad situation if I tried to be a fucking queen ruler. But at the very least, if shit was going fucking south, I'd be able to realize it. Right. I don't really know what any of that was for, or where I was going with any of that, but I think that the fact that I keep losing what I'm trying to say just shows my disbelief and confusion at what's going on. And last thing I'll say, sorry, is just, yeah, like, as she's being arrested, she's delusional, and she's like, this is gonna happen. Someone's gonna save me. This is gonna happen. And then even by the end, when she's done throwing her tantrums, and she finally is like, whatever, I'll wear this little tunic. I'll eat this, like, I'll lick my little soup, like, bowl. Even when those things are happening, she still isn't like, well, damn, I'm screwed, you know? Like, and it just is wild to me that somebody can get to that point and still be really delusional. But I guess it also is like, once you get to, like, capital D delusion, then maybe that is just how it
Once
goes.
you go
even
delusional,
when you're forced to
you're
reckon.
always stay delusional. Like,
yeah, maybe. Anyway, yeah, sorry. I feel like I just keep saying the same thing over and over again. I think I'm just
it's okay.
shocked.
So the one thing of note, as she's remembering as she's trying to run away, is that Taina Merryweather was also in the sept, and she's like, oh god, if they capture her, she knows everything, like everything, and if they whip a confession out of her, I'm screwed. So that's like something she's thinking. Later we find out that Taina and her husband have absconded, and she's like relieved. She's like, oh, thank god they didn't get her, otherwise I would have been screwed. But she never once questions Taina's like role, responsibility, like anything.
Yeah, like maybe she was let off because she told the truth. Like maybe because she sold you out. That's why now, like, because especially like people have
I don't actually
her...
think that. Like, I don't think Taina told the High Sept and everything.
Yeah.
But
I think that she totally could have. And like I think it's important, if I was Cersei, it would be important to question how Taina was able to just quit and get away so quickly.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
She's so suspicious of everyone, and even like Taina, she's like, I know you're working for the other little queen, but like really, like she thinks that, but she doesn't embody
act
it
on
like,
it at all.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, so she gets, confined to a room, a little cell, same as Marjorie's. She breaks the water jar. She breaks the chamber pot, which I was like, throwback to Sweet Robin throwing his chamber pot at that guy.
Oh, God.
Channeling some, 8-year-old. And she tears, so they take her dress away. They tear it away. They give her like a little shift. And she tears that to pieces, but then she's cold, so then she has to huddle under, like, the one blanket they provided her. And then, like...
And as they're leaving her in the room before she starts having her tantrum, and this really got me riled up and mad, the queen should pray, said Septa Scalera, before they left her naked in the cold, bleak cell. And that just was so fucking, like... Bro, you're literally fucking torturing me. Like, don't talk to me about praying right now. Like, that made me so mad. And then, even then, it's like all of her actions of, like, breaking the shift and throwing the chamber pot are all, like, she said she was not meek Marjorie Tyrell. And it's like, you're still not seeing how you're in the same position right now. Like, it just, disbelief is what I felt this whole chapter. Yeah, and it just was like, yeah, and something about the way that it was like, okay, Septa, you know how you're about to treat me here every hour for the next however long it takes me to confess, and all you can say to me is the queen should pray. Like, you're being, like, fucking righteous about it, or you think you are. Like, it just rubbed me the wrong way, and it made me really, really mad, I think.
Fair enough. Yeah. Cersei tries everything. She tries yelling, she tries threatening, she tries, like, shouting for help. Nobody is coming to her rescue. It, like, every hour, like, it's nightfall, and every hour, they wake her up to get her to confess, and it's basically torture. And then in the next morning, because she broke her chamber pot, she has to pee in the corner, and that's like... That's probably the least disturbing thing that's happened to her and anybody in the situation, honestly.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things like, oh, I wish I hadn't broken that. I wish I hadn't torn my shift. Wish I hadn't, like, broken my water jar, like, all of those things,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they bring her some, like, breakfast, some, I don't know, gray gruel, as she calls it, and she, like, smashes that, but then when they bring her water, she's so thirsty she has to drink it, and then she, like, eats what they bring her for supper. So, like, but she's doing all this all kind of out of spite, so her spirit hasn't really broken. But when they bring her a new dress or shift, she puts that on, all of that stuff. And she's like wondering about like what's happening, like why isn't somebody coming to rescue me? What's the council doing? A lot of cravens. I ought to have them beheaded and find better men to take their place, but you're the one who put them in that place.
Girl.
And then she hears the mob calling out, but they're calling Marjorie's name, not hers.
Dude.
So then finally the next day, Qyburn comes and he's brought some updates. First off, I'm like, how did they like Qyburn in? Like,
yeah.
You know?
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, who is he to get to like, and like, especially because like all of her people were like, you know, leaving the council and being replaced and shit, and like Qyburn just gets to keep hanging out? Like, what's up with that?
Well, he does say that he's been kicked off the council, but they're still making use of his, like, spy skills.
Yeah, but that still is, like, I guess because everyone else was so useless, like, so they didn't kick him off. Like at least with Qyburn, it's like he was able to make some use, but it still is like, dude, this is weird, you know?
Yeah, but anyway, the point is he's in. Yeah, so his whole thing is like, oh yeah, she's like, what's happening to Marjorie? She's going to be tried. Oh yes. First off, she's like, bring me back, and he's like, that's not gonna happen. They're gonna hold you until your trial. You're gonna be tried for treason and all of this stuff. And Marjorie is as well, and the Blue Bard has testified against her, and even though they're whipping him, he is still, how does he put it? So far, he's still singing the same sweet song we taught him. Yeah. Okay. And she's like, oh yeah, I wish he dies from all the whipping, because then Marjorie can't ever disprove him. Like, oh, Cersei.
Yeah.
Like, worry about yourself right now, you know?
Yeah, don't be out here wishing for people's deaths when you're about to die, like, girl.
Yeah, so there have been some changes in positions of power. Osford Kettleblack is no longer commander of the City Watch. It's some other guy that the king has raised. And Cersei's like, but why would he do that? And it's like, obviously he would do that. He signs any paper you put in front of him. It's like an automatic response. Like, of course he would. And so then she hears about the updates to the council. Qyburn has been dismissed. The realm is being ruled by Sir Harris Swift and Grand Maester Pycelle, and they've sent word to Kevin Lannister to get him to come rule. And Mace Tyrell is coming up from Storm's End. He's ended his siege and he's coming up to fight this. And Randall Tarley is also coming down from Maidenpool.
Mm-hmm.
So, lots happening. Merryweather has resigned his seat and, as we said, absconded with his wife back to their home castle. And this is when she's like, oh, I'm so glad they let her go. Like, that's all she thinks. And then Orain Waters. We get Orain Waters. As soon as word of her troubles reached him, he raised sail, unshipped his oars, and took his fleet to sea. And Harris Swift is like, oh, he's gonna go join Stannis, but Pycelle's like, no, he's gonna go be a pirate in the Stepstones, which is,
oh my god,
ridiculous. I'm not saying like it's not possible. The whole situation is just ridiculous, you know?
Yeah, but it really is like the I was gonna say cookie on top, so I'm gonna say that. Like, it's just the little cookie on top, you know?
Yeah, and Cersei's like, I never should have trusted a bastard. They're always treacherous. And I'm like, yeah, it's the bastards that are the problem. Sure. And so he's like, don't worry, I got you. There's a champion that stands ready to prove your innocence by battle. There is no man in all the Seven Kingdoms who can hope to stand against him if you will only give the command. Whomst?
This is the fucking Gregor body. Fucking
okay.
Resurrected with all the people's fucking shit, you know?
Franken Gregor, you might say.
Yeah. Frankengregor.
That is not my term. I should clarify. That is, I don't even know who came up with it. That's just the term known in the fandom.
Yeah, the fucking Frank and Greg.
And
Greg and Frank. Greg and Frank.
No, that's bad. Just go with Frank and Gregor. Okay.
Greg and Frank.
That's not even his name. Gregan is not his name. Gregor, his name. Well, okay, doesn't matter. So she's like, yeah, but I can't because it has to be one of the Kingsguard. And then I was like, yeah, so like, what can she do? And even Qyburn's like, I'm at a loss. I don't know how to counsel you. And she's like, okay, here's what you can do. You can send a message to Jaime. Do it right away and write, come at once, help me, save me. I need you now as I have never needed you before. I love you, I love you, I love you. Come at once. And he's like, I love you thrice? Like he's like, isn't that too much? And she's like, no, thrice. He will come. And
it's giving two girls deciding what message to send next to a conversation with a guy. Like should I put is 2 exclamation marks too needy? Like, it just is so funny. Like,
and Qyburn is like, yeah, but have you forgotten? Jaime's got no, like, fighting hand anymore. And she's like, well, if he loses, then we'll leave this world together as we came into it. But what she says is he will not lose. Not Jaime, not with my life at stake. And that's the end of this epic chapter.
Girly, you literally sent him the fucking hell away. You literally were like, fuck you, you're useless to me. You literally... And also, okay. As I have never needed you before. Like, if this wasn't Cersei, I would take it as, like, times are just so desperate. But because it's Cersei, that it's not giving times are just so desperate. It's giving, as you know, I've never valued you. But right now I need you. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And it just is like, and I don't want him to show up. But I think that he will.
Mm-hmm. So he gets this letter. Like, we say, you know, Raven, Messenger, whatever. How does it work? Like, what does he do exactly?
Okay, well, first he's got to deal with the shit he's dealing with, you know? And then, so I think
so he's not gonna, like, just leave it.
Like, drop everything and leave? Yeah. I don't think he can. Or maybe he'll, like... entrust his plans to someone else and then, like, go do his thing. Like,
he's got that cousin will go right away.
Yeah. So I think he'll go right away, even if it's not necessarily like, I'm gonna save Cersei, even if it's just like, let's see what the fuck's going on, or like, what can I do? Because this is like even with all the shit that had gone down with Cersei, like, the last time he left her, she wasn't about to be fucking tried for all the shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
But also, she's asking him to save her because of, like, all the sex that she had, all the treason, all the framing Marjorie, and, like, all the shit. But I guess as of right now, all they know is that, like, she slept with Osney, and that she got Osney to kill the High Septon. And obviously, like, the murder charges and shit are a different thing. But, like, she's been fucking Osney and Kettle Black and Moon Boy. Like, what was the quote? The fucking thing? And you're telling me she wants him to just... You know what I mean?
Right,
like, defend her from that?
So is he gonna do it? So he comes, but he doesn't, like, actually fight for her?
I think that he will come with the intention of fighting for her. But I think that he won't actually end up doing it.
Okay.
Or, like... Yeah, I think that it'll be, like, he comes with the intention of saving her, because at the end of the day, like, 30 years of codependency doesn't go away within a breakup of 6 months. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But also, like, and also, like, as many fuck ups as she's made now, like, it still is, like, he still, you know, very clearly loves her, even if he doesn't want to anymore, you know? So I think he'll still come, and he'll come with the intention of doing it. But I think by the time he gets there and he sees that it's like, oh yeah, she did in fact, like, fuck Osney and all these things, I think it just will, and I think it'll just be too much. And at the end of the day, like, he'll see all the shit she's pulled since he's been gone too. And it'll be like a jealous / insecure, no, I don't want to help you, but it'll also be like I don't think that you should be helped right now. Like, okay. I think that me getting you out of this situation is bad for humanity. So I think that it'll be a bit of both. Cool. So I don't think he'll do it, but I do think he'll come back to do it.
You know who else is in the city that can have an impact on Cersei? Lancel.
Yes.
Another person she had sex with. A person she had sex with while she was married to Robert. And also the one she got to kill Robert. There's kind of a pattern there. She has sex with people to have them kill people on her behalf, which I don't know how I feel about that.
Well,
I mean, we've heard her talk about, like, how this is, like, the woman's weapon, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
but, like,
exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, Lancel is definitely a big factor, especially, like, he do be buddy-buddy with the Septons.
Right. So there's so many things that we can predict, but let's just do, like, a general, what will her trial and or penance entail, and what will be the outcome? Just give me your best general guess. Like, you don't have to do details.
Bro, this is so hard, because there could be so much that could happen.
There is. Yeah. And I like, it's one of those things where you can't really guess what happens. Like, you know, just don't have enough information. But I just want to see if the direction you go in is the direction it ends up going in, you know?
Okay. I think that Cersei... I think that both Cersei and Margaery don't make it out of this.
Like, they die?
Yeah.
Whoa. Like, beheaded? Found guilty?
I think that Cersei is gonna realize that she's going down. And she's gonna realize that nobody wants Margaery to go down, and they only want Cersei to go down. And I think it's going to be one of those things of, like, technically Margaery, as far as we know, is innocent, right? And so I think either they like, Watts' testimony changes or something, and now there's no proof that Margaery did anything, right? Like, if the cousins didn't get convinced, if the Watt testimony doesn't work, everything else, like the Osney confessional, everything else has been disproven, right? So Margaery is off the hook. And
except they're convinced she's not a virgin, quote unquote.
Right, but maybe that can be like, oh, she, like, maybe she could play it as, like, it was Renly, or, like, maybe somebody does bring up the logical argument of, like, hey, this doesn't have to be a fucking thing. Or maybe that part of it gets sorted by the fact that the small folk love her so much. Like, maybe they're like, no, we refuse to believe it, or something. Like, if that's the only thing and all the other proof is gone, maybe it works out for Margaery anyway. And I think that Cersei's gonna see that, and Cersei's gonna see the fact that nobody is coming to her defense. And I think that Cersei's, like, last action is gonna be get rid of Margaery. Like, if I go down, like, she doesn't get to replace me.
But then how does the Valonqar kill Cersei?
That I don't know. Oh yeah, wait. Yeah, Jaime has to do that. Hold on. Okay, so maybe everything I'm saying is right, but then also Cersei is like, maybe Jaime's like, Cersei, you're literally about to die. Like, what are you on about? And Cersei's like, I just need you to kill Marjorie. Like, if you can't save me, I need you to kill Marjorie. And then maybe Jaime's like, this girl is too far gone, and then he kills Cersei.
Okay.
And then, but then Cersei also gets Marjorie killed.
I think you lost your thread a little bit there, but
no.
Okay.
I think, okay, at the end of the day, I think that Marjorie and Cersei are going to die, because I think that Cersei is going to make sure that Marjorie dies, and I think that there's nothing that saves Cersei.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Like I said,
what was your theory about Marjorie or something?
Oh, yes. That, like, this is okay. I don't even remember. I don't remember any of the details, okay? It's been a while since I read this theory, and it's like a long or elaborate one. I think it's called like the Grand Tyrell Conspiracy or some really bullshit like that. I mean, no, completely
completely canon, guys, not bullshit at all.
Exactly. This thing, there's like aspects of the theory that I can believe, but then there's others that are just so ridiculous. One of which is that, like, Olenna, remember when she like left the city? The theory is that she never actually left, that she's been hiding out in the woods, and that's who Marjorie and her cousins go to meet all the time.
What?
That she's just hanging out in the woods. That I find that hard to believe. But that they've been plotting together, and that Loras is not actually that badly injured. And they're gonna like parade him out and be like, look, he magically recovered and he's gonna defend Marjorie's honor, and then, like, you know, Marjorie will win the trial in that manner. And there's like other aspects to this theory, but those are the two things I remember. That the Olenna is hiding out in the forest is just really funny to me.
That is really funny, because tell me why you think that the lady of the house of one of the great houses would be willing to do that. And especially because Elena's such,
she's
like,
been camping this whole time.
Yeah, like, you think that, like, it just doesn't make sense. And, like, Elena's like an old lady. She's a highborn old lady. Like, she's used to the riches. Why would she fucking do that? Like,
yeah, but no I do like the part that says that Loras isn't actually badly injured, because I don't want him to be. That would be interesting. I just believe that because I don't want him to be, you know?
Right. Yeah.
There's like no Tyrell facts conspiracy to back it up.
Oh my god.
No. The Grand Tyrell Conspiracy. I'm pretty sure great isn't grand enough.
Right. Understood.
I think there's another great theory, like another one that has like the word great or grand or something in it. There's a lot of like, when you leave fandoms with like 13 years 14 now, like, of no books, like, people come up with a lot of stuff.
People go wild, bro.
Yeah, you could probably write the rest of the books with the theories, but like there's just so many of them. But yeah, I just like that kind of suggests that the Tyrells like orchestrated this and went along with this, but like we talked about, it seems like a lot of work, a lot of bearing torture to come to this conclusion, you know?
Yeah, there would be a better way to go about it if this was the outcome we wanted. Like, I think this is more Cersei's actions knocking at the door rather than something that, like, Marjorie pulled off.
Yeah.
I think this is more just like, guys, we knew Cersei was fucking up, and now she made, like, the ultimate fuck up by hitting the, like, the trigger button on the Marjorie plan right now, you know?
Yeah. So anyway, that's that. In terms of predictions, I think maybe they're so vague. Maybe we can do them like after the end of the book or something like that.
Yeah,
like you've already predicted, like, you know, like Jaime's he's gonna come try to save her, but not actually do it. Instead, he's gonna end up killing her. Like that whole thing.
Yeah.
I think we're good. So
Yeah.
next chapters.
Let's do it.
So how many chapters do you think we have left?
I genuinely think, like, we have... Hold on. Let me try and read this. I think that we have 3 chapters left.
Okay. Well, next time we're reading 2 chapters. So give me your
Whoa.
hopes and predictions.
Ooh. Okay. I think that... Oh, is it wishful thinking to hope for
Probably.
another Brienne chapter? Because I just really need to know how that shit fucking... Ugh, but I don't think we're getting... Okay, I think that Jaime's last chapter doesn't have to be his last. So I think Jaime's, and then I think... Ariane's is definitely the last one, because that shit was too fucking juicy for them to not have. Like, they ain't no way they could top that in the next 2 minutes, you know? I think it's gonna be Jaime, and I think that it's going to be... one of the Greyjoys, because we also need to take that to the climax.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So we're reading chapters 44 and 45 next time.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 44 is, in fact, Jaime.
Slay. Okay, hold on. So
we see him.
I think we'll see
the message.
Yeah, I think we see him get the message, and I think we see the results of the shit that was going on last time.
Apparently,
like the
River
shit.
Run gave in, like...
Yeah, however the fuck that all worked out. And then at the end of the chapter, I think he'll get the Cersei message, and maybe we'll get his takes on, like, if he's gonna defend, you know, his fucking girlfriend, sister, twins fucking cheating on him, you know, like...
Right. But you do think
murder.
He'll eventually decide to, like, I don't know, leave the rest of the Riverlands job to his cousin or somebody, and then, like, go rescue Cersei.
I think so.
Cool. All right. And chapter 45 is Samwell.
Ayo? Oh, I literally forgot that we had his chapters in this book. Okay, wait. What the fuck was he doing? Oh, he was trying to fucking find dragons, and then he had sex with Jilly. And then
the last time they were
died.
On a boat, Maester Aemon had died. Yeah, he had sex for the first time. He was feeling super guilty about it and taking it out on Gilly, like all of that stuff.
And then it was like, you fucking Westerners stigmatizing sex all the time. And then... Where were they going? Like, just to, like, find the dragons? Yeah, oh, right, yes, because they're gonna... Right, yeah, and then they're gonna be like, hey, oh, yeah, because he has to convince them about, like, the fucking, to, like, send a maester and, like, tell them about the wall and exchange stories and all the shit. Yes, okay, yeah. Okay, so that's what's gonna happen.
Sorry, what's gonna happen?
Okay. Get to Old Town, tell them about Maester Aemon, tell them about their trip. They're like, he puts Jilly and the baby on a boat or whatever, like, to head to his father's house. And then, because he has to stay there and, like, study and stuff, right? But then there's also the dragons thing. But I think he's going to stay there and study and just try to convince them that winter is in fact coming and it's really serious and real.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Yes. And because this will be our first time seeing Old Town since the beginning of the book, maybe we'll get more goss on, like, the Doran shit and, like, the Ariane shit and see if the riots are stirring up or not. And then we'll also see the goss on, like, the key or whatever, and, like, whatever was going on with that guy in the prologue who died.
Yes.
So maybe we'll get some updates on those things.
The pig boy.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my god, this is so exciting.
Jaqen, remember him?
Yes. Yeah, I feel like this will be some good chapters of, like, what the fuck is going on, you know?
Okay. Cool. Well, that's it for that.
Do we have emails?
We do, but they're for the end of the book, so not yet.
Wow.
So we can't read them yet, but if you have, if you, listener, right now, have emails, quizzes, questions, theories, anything to send to us, anything you want us to talk about, do it now. You can flip to the end of the book and know exactly how long we have. And we'll read whatever the chapters are, then we'll do a wrap-up episode. Then maybe we'll watch some more show episodes. No promises yet, we're gonna see.
Yes. We
have plans to make yet, but then we'll probably have the wrap-up episode will also probably be like an intro to book 5 episode, like remembering everybody we've forgotten over the periods.
Oh god.
Or maybe that'll be more of like prologue of book 5. We'll see how the discussion goes, you know? But like if you want Harmith to theorize on like specific characters that we haven't seen this book, or even if characters we have seen this book, but like you just want to know what she thinks will happen in the future, send us those as well. So yeah, it's so exciting. Yay!
This is very exciting. Aww.
We're gonna have to pull out that list that I gave you of all the characters and then like have you predict on them again.
Oh god. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm actually gonna give myself the homework to like in the next little bit listen to that episode where you predicted everything, and then since you're predicting again with the knowledge from this book, you know, see what changes, what updates, what stays the same.
Oh wow. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. So there's fun stuff coming up. I'm so excited. Honestly, I'm really excited to start the 5th book. There's some really good stuff in there. And I, like, every day I remember some random detail and I'm like, oh my god, that. Yes, that.
I'm scared of the 5th book.
You should be, honestly.
Thanks. Okay. I'm scared of the 5th book because if I start the 5th book, then we're going to be finished the 5th book. And then I'm going to be... The one good thing about being unspoiled is not having to be miserable about the fact that this series is never going to be finished. And I fear that I'm going to get to the end of book 5 and it's going to do something to our friendship because I'm going to be like, how could you knowingly put me on this? And then I'm going to be like, I just can't trust you ever again. And it's going to be really bad.
Well, I'm glad... our friendship will have a very public ending after, 15 years now?
Yes, like, so many years, so long.
Yeah. All right. So, folks, email us all those things or anything. Our email is popculturesymposium@gmail.com. Join the Discord. The link is always in the show notes. And follow us on Instagram. We're apparently doing Reels now, which is... I mean, thanks to Harmith. Like, that's all her doing. I just sit back and watch. So, yay for Harmith. That's fun. I think that's everything. Until next time, farewell, my friends.
Talk to you later.